Hello, everyone. You are listening to the To Hull and Back podcast, proudly sponsored by Old Zoological Bar and Kingfisher Quality Fish and Chips in Hull. I'm your host, Nathaniel, and tonight I'm joined by Joe and Will to celebrate the 120th anniversary match for Hull City and a resounding 4-1 win against Cardiff. So, Joe, Will, thanks for joining me. How are you tonight?
Great, absolutely great.
I feel okay. I mean, Hull City won, so
Just okay.
straight away that's a winner.
Yeah. Nice. Well, we were a bit all over the place last week, so we'll try and be a little bit more.
No, we were.
Oh,
A
well,
little bit more uniform.
yeah, and just sort of focused because it's an important episode. We've won the first home game of the season, 4 goals, first time we've scored 7 in I think 2 years, or 7 goals in 2 games, I should say, something Rossier never managed. I mean, the big question, which I have an answer to, but I'll get onto that in a moment. I'll go to you, Will, first. Has it clicked?
I mean, it appears that attacking-wise it's clicked.
Yeah.
But there are issues further back that haven't clicked still.
Yes.
But
100.
This is a positive podcast. Stop moaning about the defence for once, and we'll talk about good stuff.
I didn't say
Stop
anything.
bringing it up, Nathaniel.
I didn't say anything. I'm going to. I'm certainly going to. But I mean, there are lots of positives. But 6 points from 6 now. We can finally put that sort of a very negative period. That wasn't just the start of the season, but it sort of went back to the back end of last season as well. We can finally put that behind us. Away win, home win, 7 goals. Joe, are you a little bit more relaxed about the season now?
Definitely. In response to your first question, in terms of has it clicked, I'll echo what Will said in terms of going forward. Yes, there are still, a few little areas of concern re the defence, but we're focusing on the positives today. And that was the fact we came from behind to win on our 120th anniversary game. We didn't do a typical City. That's great. Another thing I'll say on that is that's a brilliant comment about Philogene. We have, since it's clicked, let's say, we've got 2 wins against 2 very poor teams.
Yes.
So Norwich and QPR should be a bit of a step up. So it'll be nice to see now we've got a couple of wins on the board and we think things are starting to head in the right direction. How we come up against a QPR team who are, where are they in the league? A QPR in the league?
They're just below us. They've got 7 points. We've got 9.
Who are about sort of where we are then. And a Norwich team who last season beat us into the playoffs and got a very, very, very jammy win at the weekend, doing what they did to us again, looking back to the first game of last season. So I'm excited to see where this could go. I still have a couple of reservations, yes, and I'm excited to see those get proved wrong and get those worries put in some sort of skip, because I believe that they will. I think I was a bit negative at the start of the season. I hate being it, but it just felt that was the way I felt. Now I feel a little bit more enfranchised with the football club again, let's say.
Yeah. It was a big day. It was. It could have gone very badly. It looked like offside, the Robinson goal. Although when you look at it back, you could say VAR would have had a few minutes on that.
It was a goal. It was a goal that VAR would have looked at if we had VAR, but it would have probably given it as a goal because I'm pretty certain Coyle's shoulder's playing him on. In real time, obviously, he looked about 5 yards off. But
he's just quick. That's all it is.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No.
We won.
No.
Yeah, so stop talking about negatives.
Well, that's the only negative, isn't it? That I think there were a few opportunities Cardiff had, same with Stoke, but we're looking to iron those out. And this is exactly the sort of football Adrian wants. He said, well, I'd rather lose 4-3 than draw 0-0 and score lots of goals, and we're conceding. It doesn't look like we really want to keep a clean sheet, but we've scored 3 and then 4. That's exactly what he wants. Yeah.
You can tell that why Cardiff were going into the game bottom of the table with only 1 goal scored, because the chances they did have, the wastefulness of their attack was just something unbelievably wasteful. And I can understand why they've now only scored 2 goals all season so far. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the thing about if we concede those chances and against good teams, we'll lose. I mean, we did against Leeds and Sheffield United, but we scored 3 and 4. Most teams aren't able to score 3 or 4 goals a game. So if we keep playing this way, we've seen over the last 2 games, Volta Ball is definitely a risky strategy, but we're seeing the reward part of that now. And so, if we can keep on that, we've got a new striker in as well, Pedro. Bedier looks really good. Balumi blew me away with his performance. Of course, I put Balumi's better than Philogene. That's just a joke. I'm not going to say that just yet. But clearly, we've got goals in this team, and if we can continue to outscore opposition, then I suppose we don't have to worry about the defensive side. But I would like us to see, like when we're trying to win a game, first hour of the match, I can understand it. But when we were 3-1 up, I think the way we were playing, I don't want to be negative, but we've got to be a little bit more intelligent in that we don't need to try and score more goals when we're 3-1 up, because if we concede and we keep not playing to the midfield, and I'm getting negative again, it's very difficult not to.
But I'll say on that.
Yeah.
Panda did really well. And if we can play that way and have confidence that Zambrano can sweep up, that Coyle and Drama or Giles or whoever's at left back can recover, Jones and McLaughlin or Hughes, whenever he makes his debut, can get back in. But most importantly, the reservations fans have had about Ivor Panda have been dispelled.
Yes.
And that he's firmly got into a groove. And at the minute, Kyle Rushworth, who was one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship last year, doesn't look like he's going to get in the team. And if the team can have confidence in Panda to make saves, which he did the other day, which he did on Saturday, some good ones, some routine ones, lovely. That's what a goalkeeper needs to do. And if the players can have confidence in their goalkeeper, then that allows them to play the way the manager wants them to play, like they did on Saturday. And then Panda is just there as the last resort to try and stop anything that gets through. And if they've got confidence that he can do that, then we're fine.
We couldn't have Volta Ball with Ryan Alsop in goal, could we? Because we've conceded about 20 goals by now. It's actually nice having a goalkeeper. And they have stopped making mistakes with their feet as well. But it's nice having a goalkeeper that can save some shots, because that was not the case last year. And I think, have we really lost that element? Because we're still having a fair bit of possession. Have we lost that sort of control with having a goalkeeper that's better shot stopping than playing out with his feet? I'm not so sure. So, I mean, I'm sure Rossini would have loved Rushworth. Maybe that would be the best of both worlds. But yeah, absolutely. Panda did have a bad pre-season, but pre-season doesn't really matter. And when it's actually mattered in the matches, he's done quite well, bar first 2 games. But since then, he's made a lot of good saves, and I thought he was one of the top 4 or 5 performers for us yesterday. Shall we just talk about Mo Balumi? Because
can we just say we have a positive goal difference. We have won as many as we've lost.
Yeah,
we are, like you said, we've won, got 7 in 2 games. We've seen multiple different people scoring goals as well in that. Can we just lay off being? I'm going to do it again. Can we just lay off looking for the negative points every single time? We won 4-1 for fuck's sake.
Well, I think that's a bit harsh, Will, because...
No, it isn't, because people have spent weeks and weeks and weeks acting like Tim Volta is the Antichrist, and he's destroying the club, and Adjun is destroying the club as well, and that's me some of that. But people have acted like it's the end of the world because after 2 games we're already in a relegation battle and we should sack him and get rid of him and get rid of all these players. They're all wank, they're all shit. Oh, this transfer window was absolute shit. Fucking calm down and give him a chance. And look what's happened the last couple of games. They're fucking won because people who are patient can wait and see what happens.
We haven't even had to wait that long. It's not like it's 10, 20 games.
Do you remember when?
6 games.
Do you remember when, in the olden days, you probably don't because you two are children, people used to say you'd wait 10 games into the season and that's when you'd start to judge your side.
The first time you look at the table, isn't it? Don't judge the table by 10 games.
It wasn't 10 games, it was about 10 minutes into the season people decided to 10 on Walter.
Yeah.
I just want to say, throughout the whole thing, I always said 10 games. And that's how it should be, like you say, Will. That's the 10 games is make comment before, but say, look, if we're absolute shit after 10 games, then cool. But when you think about it, we lost to Leeds, who just came down from the Premier League. Sheffield United, who just came down from the Premier League.
Our 2 losses are to recently relegated Premier League sides.
Good teams, aren't they?
Still with
teams
parachute
you'd expect
payments.
to lose. Yeah.
But then it's just because we had 3 pretty dull draws before that, it made it seem like we were worse off than we were. And I was in that camp for a little bit, don't get me wrong. And Coxie makes a good comment there. It is absolutely mental that after 6 games, 2 managers have been sacked. Is it 3 who've lost their job?
Yeah, we've played
overall?
2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, Bullock, Schumacher.
If you're going to get rid of these managers, if you're going to get rid of these managers, you get rid of them before the season starts. You don't get rid of them a couple of games in where you've wasted all your pre-season with that manager.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange.
I saw a video of a Stoke fan cutting up his season ticket, tagging John Walters in the tweet. John Coates out, John Walters out, and he's just stood there in his kitchen with a pair of kitchen scissors, and he cuts his season pass into 3 pieces.
It's a bit
2
much.
games under their new manager. 2 games.
The only reason I'm mentioning the negatives in a sense is that I'm relaxed enough to do that, and I'm not feeling like I'm being a negative Nelly. I'm just saying that I think if we iron out these defensive errors, I think we could have quite a good season now, because I've seen the benefit of the way we play. We've got all these young players. We've got 4 or 5 yet to make their debut. Obviously, it's 2 games we've won, and you've said poor teams. Most championship teams are quite poor, I'd say, bar maybe the top 10 or so.
Thing is, under a senior, people moaned that we didn't beat the teams near the bottom.
Yeah, and now we have. You've only got to beat what you're playing against. Yeah, true. It's certainly it's more exciting than the senior bowl, I'd say. There's more chances either end. We're just trying to be on the be more ruthless than we were last year, and we'll do quite well. I'm very happy with how things are going.
I personally couldn't care less for excitability of football, because let's be honest, I mean, Adjun for some reason does, but what's the main thing about football? It's winning games. I mean, I wouldn't want us to be boring, but if boring wins every single game and gets us promoted, I'll happily take boring.
Tony Pulis at Stoke, for example.
I might not be happy with the methods, but you can't argue with the results.
Yeah.
Anyway, can we talk about how we scored 4 and not how we defended against 1?
Well, Balumi, I'm very surprised that I was surprised when he started against Sheffield United, and then I'm surprised that of the 2 wingers that he could have brought off to bring Mella on, he brought Balumi off, or Kamara off, sorry, kept Balumi on. And then against Stoke, he was pretty good, won the penalty. And then, I've not heard of him before we signed him on deadline day. He came out of nowhere. Kamara was the big one. We spent more money on him, I believe. And yet Balumi, great goal, edge of the box. It's a good cross. It's a great cross because it went in. That's what you want. You want the cross to be so good that it just needs a touch from someone to go in because it's already on target. And if not, keeper's too scared or the defender's too scared to touch it, go straight in. And then a delightful chip and quick to nip in ahead of the defender. I'm very excited about Mohamed Balumi. Joe, what did you think of his performance?
What a player! What a player! I mean, that first goal, it was 100% a cross, Shep. Was it a shot or a cross? Silly comment. Of course it was a cross because Malem nearly got there to divert it in. But I think Jack Anick was looking at Malem to receive the ball and looking at the angle of his foot and where it will go. And that's why he missed Balumi's effort and didn't track it. Plus, it bounced on the 6-yard line. And that made it more difficult for the keeper. But we were having a conversation about away games just where I was sat. And I was sort of looking at who I was talking to. And then I turned my head and I just saw Balumi come in off the right and then just hit this ball and it nestled in the bottom corner. So I got one glimpse of it, but it was the most crucial glimpse I've ever got. And then the second one, I mean, just wow. That football building up to it, because there was frustration in the crowd at how long it was taking to get out and the fact that we had to go backwards quite a lot. And there seemed to be some sort of allergy to pass to Zambrano when the back four had the ball. But when we got out, Slater played Balumi in, a couple of passes later, Malem plays it back through to him, and the lob, chip, dink, whatever you want to call it, was...
dink.
Yeah, whatever it was absolutely sublime. But then it's, of course, typical City that he goes down injured straight afterwards.
Yeah, so that's a shame. It looks like that might not be so bad. He may miss a QPR game, but probably more of a precaution, I would hope.
Yeah, well, look at it this way. At least there's an international break coming up, I suppose. As rubbish as they are.
Which gives us a chance to get Siddiq back fit again.
Oh, yeah, just in time for him to get injured again. It was just too hard. It was a cross. It was a cross. I mean, I did think Miller had got a touch on it, but when you see the replay, he didn't touch it. And I saw some people complain about offside for it as well, and I'm trying to work out how Malin was offside on that. Because he wasn't. And of course, the second goal, like you say, superb. Malin and Balumi working very well in very fast-paced. It was a superb little finish. Fair play to him for staying up and actually going for the attempt instead of going down when he obviously got touched. Because the most modern footballers would have probably gone down. But, it was a nice response to going behind. And from that point on, we never looked like not winning the game, even with that bit of pressure in midway through the second half. We never looked like we were going to lose from that point on.
Yeah, quite right. And then we scored from a short corner. Who could have seen that coming?
Before that, Balumi, going back to Panda having a good game, I would say Jake Anick for Cardiff had an absolutely immense game, I thought. It was superb. And particularly the pick of the saves was his save to deny Balumi his hat-trick when he had a go from about 25 yards. It was destined for the top corner. I was saying it was going in, and somehow he managed to hook it away. And the fact he got man of the match for Cardiff kind of says how the game went really for City. I do like the fact that we scored from a corner.
A short
corner. Because I think we've had this conversation before on here a while back that technically short corners are more successful at scoring goals than normal corners.
Yeah, they are.
But obviously, you wouldn't think that with the way that City have been playing them recently, particularly against Sheffield United.
But they had an idea there, didn't they? They had an idea and they executed it, where normally it looks like They're just doing it for the hell of it.
Even the ones that didn't score City, you could see what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And it was a lot more obvious what they were trying to do. And it seemed, even though they might not have scored, it seemed like it was an effective attempt at trying to score something. Whereas against Sheffield United, obviously, it would just give them the ball and they'll score.
I want to talk about the scorer of that goal as well for Zambrano.
Callum Chambers.
But you claim them. If Slater's one against Stoke last year counts as Slater's, that's 100% Oscar Zambrano's.
Oh, yeah.
But Jared Bowen scored an absolute belter against, was it Middlesbrough? And it was given to Tom Eaves.
Yeah, Tom Eaves touched it with the bottom of his studs.
Different rules for teammates.
He was trying to jump out the way.
I know, but he still touched it.
It's not. Well, then it's Callum Chambers' goal, not Zambrano's.
Yeah, but it's different rules for the opposition. That's not how that works.
No, Callum Chambers scored.
No. But yeah,
Josh
even
if Donny.
It's nice for him to get a goal.
Yeah, I'm glad Zambrano scored before his ban.
Yeah,
just don't get banned, Oscar.
Yes, an Oscar scoring felt a bit weird as well.
Yeah, South American Oscar scoring, but not Estepinian. I didn't quite know what to do with that. But yeah, even if it was a deflection, very good chance to create that for him in the edge of the box or just inside the box even. You know, if we can do that from a short corner, get a lucky deflection like that, that's clearly what they're trying to do. He doesn't get the ball very much, but I quite like the look of him. I think
when he does get it, he looks good.
We've got some good young talent, and even though Zambrano is technically on loan, a lot of them are permanent signings. And
I think if Zambrano doesn't get banned, he'll be permanent.
I think if Zambrano gets banned, he'll still be permanent. No matter how long, I think the club will stand by him.
It depends, doesn't it? It depends when. Like, I feel like if he got banned for an entire year now, they probably wouldn't. But if it's like halfway through the season, then he might have justified that, that he's good enough to wait for him. But
I think we'll wait for him whenever the ban happens, to be honest. It could happen tomorrow.
But remember, he might not get banned. I'm just assuming he'll get banned just to be safe.
Yeah. Usually these cases are pretty slam dunk, aren't
they? Who's being negative now, Will?
You. Stop being negative.
He's got me there. Aaron says still yet to see Puerta. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, he is I just want to say.
Apparently, he's still apparently acclimatizing to being in English football. And
he threw Zambrano straight in, so that makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that could be true, different from person to person, isn't it?
You shouldn't have to let loan players acclimatise because by the time they've acclimatised, they'll go back.
It is unusual. I think we will see him, but it's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
We finally saw Alzat, who looked okay, but he didn't really have much to do when he was on the pitch anyway at that point.
10 minutes just holding on to the lead.
Yeah, we're already 1 up. There wasn't much for him to do. It'd be interesting to see if he plays a bit more again in the next couple of games. He might start, might not. I'm not sure. I think we'll see Palmer maybe come back into the side. Maybe I'm surprised Miller did. I think a lot of people were surprised that Miller didn't start.
Very.
And it was a surprise, but to be fair, it was the person who was playing instead of him did all right for the most part because he replaced Ballooney. So
I was surprised he kept Abdush in, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were, but he did okay. To be fair, when he came inside a bit, Abdush looked all right.
Yeah, when he drifted centrally, it was fine. But when he's isolated out on the left flank, he's even worse. He's isolated out on the right.
He just is not his position at all, is it?
Still needs a bit of tweaking. It's good to have options, but still needs a bit of tweaking. I think we need to find a formation where we can have Emir and Miller playing together, but Emir not on the wing. Then also Ballooney and Palmer and Slater and Zambrano, and just play without a back four. We might get our best 11 there.
No, that would mean playing without Lewie Coyle. We can't do that.
Well, that's true.
You could not. How dare you suggest such an idea?
Well, Cole was so good, he'll play on the wing. He could play on the wing. 150 appearances for Lewie Coyle now. I put out a tweet saying that he was a Hull City legend, brackets in the making. But the way people respond to that tweet, it looks like they already think he's a legend.
I would say he's already a modern. I'll say he's a modern legend.
He's our first.
But I'm also biased. I think he's the greatest. I just love him so much.
No Hull City captain had won a trophy for us in that amount of decades since 1966, was it? So yeah, I think he can be a legend for that. I think
Smallwood was the captain. Smallwood was the
Hull
captain.
City, okay, Hull City player, and then he's the captain now. Oh yeah, I was trying to think who was the captain during the League One season. But
Smallwood.
Yeah, Smallwood. I forget about Smallwood. I like Smallwood. I think he's at Bradford still.
Yeah, still at Bradford. Tyler Smith with him as well.
Anyway, Lewie Coyle.
Has
anyone looked better than Lewie Coyle in that kit and tracksuit for Hull City? Because I'm going to say no. There's never been a man more suited to Hull City than that man.
That picture that the photographer got of him, where he's just taken his jacket off and he's walking towards the legends to do the big picture, and he's holding the little pennant, captain's armband on. Everyone will know the one I mean. It's the one the club tweeted with his 150th appearance one on. That is one of the single greatest pictures I have ever seen.
Shall we get it on here?
I don't go that far, but what I mean is he suits Hull City so much, and obviously you can say he's from Hull and all that, but just the way he conducts himself on the pitch is exactly how I want a captain to act, and and the way he speaks is exactly how I want a captain to be when
conduct himself.
Yeah, it's so. It's funny that he was a scapegoat for so long.
I know.
What's happened to that? It's funny that, isn't it? All those people who were calling him absolute rubbish, clearly he never was.
No. But a lot of people have likened him to Ian Ashby, I suppose, haven't they? In terms of
he's modern,
a reliable, safe pair of hands, skipper, leader.
Yeah, he is.
But
looking
for the
good.
first couple of years of his Hull City career, written off a little bit.
Something that people don't mention anymore. Ashby used to get a lot of shit in the day, and you don't hear about that anymore. It's funny that, isn't it, really? Because he was such a legend for the club, and I think it's happened the same way for Coyle so far. He just obviously the CV's not the same as Ashby's because obviously Ashby took us from League Two to Premier League, but he's the same sort of character that's required. Yeah, like Jar said. Best ambassador a club can hope for.
I think him and Alfie Jones are both here until they retire.
I did tweet that Coyle needs to be forced to be club captain until he retires.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which now, because I've said that, will monkey's paw him to retirement through injury before the end of the season.
Oh no.
I mean, I don't care whether he wants to go back to Fleetwood for a year just as a sort of swan song year. No. Lewie should stay here. How Ashby went to Preston for a little bit. If Coyle wants to do that back to Fleetwood, no way, not happening.
Surely a bit Real Madrid in a few years, though. So we've got to let him leave for that.
I think we can keep him.
Yeah,
I think we can keep him.
Real Madrid will have other targets. Might not be as good, but they'll have other targets.
They can have Trent. He's not as good. They can have Trent.
Make do with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Champions League winner. Yeah.
Yes, lad.
Anything else to mention about the game? Oh, well, Bedia to get his goal. That was nice because I think he's looked pretty good. He's much stronger than Oscar on the ball. He holds it up well. He brings other players into the game. And get his goal. He deserved it more when he got his penalty in the last minute than Oscar did against Bristol.
Going back to Coyle, I'm glad Coyle let Bedia take the penalty. He was the one.
Oh yeah.
Bedia is someone you can't not. He's someone you can't hate, isn't he? You can't hate him.
He's like a good Tete.
I still think Tete would have been. Had Tete not been so injury prone, I think he'd still be here. But no, I digress. Bedia, look, he might not be technically the best, but
he's such a handful.
He's a handful, and the bloke clearly likes it here. I mean, from smacking the living daylights out of Marvin Malem on his birthday to the cheering at Stoke, the cheering at the North Stand, he enjoys it here. You can tell that. And I hope that this is an environment in which he can settle and can score more goals. Because, you know, when I looked at his career when he signed, I was sort of a bit underwhelmed because he'd only scored prolifically in the Swiss Super League and with Servette out of all the clubs he'd been at. But you see the way he sort of influences the games. For a big lad, he makes some brilliant runs in behind his hold-up play when he nearly had a goal in the first half. He was just backing into Callum Chambers, backing in, and then boom, quick turn, right-footed shot, saved. But it's that sort of, you don't expect that sort of quick movement from a big sort of 6'3", big lanky dopey striker. But Chris Badia's got it, and he might, if he adds something to the system, then cool. But I still sort of think you need a striker to be scoring goals. So we need to see more of it from him. Get on the end of crosses. He nearly got on the end of a cross, to be fair, in the second half. Balumi
there was one where, when Balumi was on his hat-trick still, for some reason he decided, he was really, Balumi there should have had a shot. He was on a hat-trick, and then he decided to cross it, and it wasn't the best cross ready for Bedia because he was way too far behind it.
Yeah, if he actually tried to properly cross it to him, Bedia scores there, but he sort of half shot, half crossed it and didn't really commit to either. And in the end, it went past Bedia and past the goal. But I'm excited to see a little bit more of Chris Bedia. As, you know, players get used to playing around him and, you know, Casey Palmer comes back in the team. Abdush can maybe move centrally and get more out of him. Miller comes in. Balumi and Kamara keep getting settled. I'm excited to see what we can get out of Chris Bedia. And especially now he's got competition as João Pedro, who I think, having seen a little bit of Chris Bedia, I think will be worse than Chris Bedia. I'm excited to see, what Bedia gets up to.
Yeah.
Which other teammates get assaulted on their birthdays.
Also, he takes a good penalty, clearly.
Yeah. Well, I actually said, when I was sort of narrating it for my video, I said, Chris Badia's gone and grabbed the ball straight away. Casey Palmer wants it. He scored the last one. And then I got a comment this morning. He didn't score the last one, Joe. Well,
he scored after the last one, didn't he?
Scored straight after it. So
he did not score the last penalty.
And then, like you say, Lewie Coyle says, no, Chris, you have it.
We've had 7 penalty takers in the space of a year. I can't think, that's got to be some kind of record. I think it's not every team gets 7 penalties in a year, let alone has 7 taken.
Took one, 2 fans taken one. Twine scored at Sheff Wednesday. Carvalho missed against Leicester.
Yeah, scored against Coventry as well.
Yeah, he did.
Philogene missed one.
I said Philogene at the start. Then there was Oscar, Palmer, Bedia. Yeah, 7. Wow.
7. Crazy. And we could have another one at some point. I'm sure 100% if João Pedro is on the pitch when we have a penalty, he will take one because he's taken many for Cagliari. I'm not sure how you pronounce the club he was at in Italy, but he's taken Cagliari there. He's taken many penalties for them, so that would be 8, I'm sure. That's got to be some kind of record if we get to 8 as well. I don't know how. I'm not going to troll through the entire sort of statistics for every English team in the last 150 years, but someone might. So
I'm not.
Yeah, definitely not. That would take a long time. And then one last thing I'd like to say. Marvin Malem, I've criticised him a fair bit, but 2 assists yesterday. Still wasn't in the game like a huge amount, but showed his quality at times, set up 2 goals. That's what you want your attacking midfielder to do. So hopefully that's first of a whole lot more to come as well. Anything else to mention?
I might be in the minority, but I've always liked the look of him.
Fair enough. Anything else
I have seen people say, though, that Slater should be dropped for Palmer, and I don't agree with that. I think if
Which
one
is
of them...
quite funny, because people were screaming for Slater to start this game.
I know.
After his performance against Stoke. And Palmer obviously got a knock, hence why he wasn't in the side.
Yeah. It would be quite an attacking team without Slater. I think Slater can do box to box, maybe a little bit more defensive minded than some players like Palmer, especially. So might be worth.
I think if Palmer's to come in, I think Malem does have to go just for balance sake, although he got the 2 assists.
Quite possibly. But then can make an impact off the bench, I'm sure.
Which I think is what he's thinking about with Miller at the moment, is having him as a impact player, which feels wrong because he's good enough to start, but the last couple of games he's looked handy when he's come off the bench.
Yeah, I suppose he's playing so well off the bench, you don't want to start him and then maybe his energy will run out. But clearly made an impact off the bench. We've mentioned the signing of João Pedro. That was announced in midweek. Probably going to be a little bit of time before we see him play, probably after the international break, perhaps, or maybe off the bench against not QPR, but Norwich, possibly. Although
I doubt that. I think he'll be off the bench against Sunderland or Burnley.
I'd say so. Just 120 years of the club. Of course, we've not been around for much of that, so we can't really talk about the entire thing. I mean, I couldn't name a single Hull player who was in that first team. Definitely not. But it was nice to see a bunch of legends on the pitch before the match. Not as many as I thought there'd be. Ashby, for example, wasn't there. Curtis Davis, I know, was in the kit, but wasn't there. But still a lovely occasion.
Ian Ashby loves a fishing trip, though.
Was he?
A fishing trip. Dean Windass told me the other week that Ian Ashby had gone on a fishing trip to France just for a weekend.
Well, I can see you've got the 120-year match.
Peter Howe, Tom Jones, Joe Liper, Oscar
That's
Mackerel,
not unusual.
Bill Martin, Andrew Raisbeck, George Rushton, George Spence, Jimmy Whitehouse, Harry Wilkinson, and Fred Wolfe. The first 11 players to play for Hull City.
Oh, nice.
So,
Tom Jones.
Be quiet, Nathaniel.
Yeah, well, you didn't know those off the top of your head, did you, Will?
Who cares? I've got them here.
That's the matchday programme, isn't it?
Well, yes. On the heritage numbers, quickly, I'm not sure if anyone noticed this or not until the club drew attention to it today.
No, I hadn't.
But each player on their shirt,
they had it on their kit.
Had their number here. So, like Slater, for example, is 1095, I think, or is that Alfie Jones?
Will, can you show us who's 1000? I want to know who's the 1000th player.
1095 was Regan Slater. Do better, Joe.
I said Slater initially.
Oh, is it Coyle, didn't you?
No, I said Slater or Jones.
To be fair to Joe, he said Slater.
Yeah.
Be better, Will.
And then I was discussing with Les, Hull City Kit. I've noticed this, Les. What are they going to do with Alzate and Puerta? Because Puerta had a shirt hung up in the dressing room. And he says, I don't know, maybe just put a load of blank hashtags. But Alzate had just a blank shirt. He just had nothing there.
Well, yeah, he'd be 1163, wouldn't he? Maybe.
Yeah, he's Kamara 6'2".
So, what did you want to know, Nathaniel? Who's number 1000?
Yes, please.
Gaston Ramirez.
It
could have been worse. Could have been worse.
That's a shame.
999 was Hatton Ben Arfa.
Ooh.
That would have been funny. I mean, to be fair, Ramirez was not much better, was he?
But at least he turned up, though.
Yeah, he turned up. He scored a goal. I think he got 3 assists. It's not bad.
He didn't go AWOL after running less distance than Alan McGregor at Old Trafford and getting hauled off in the 34th minute or whatever it was. Yes, Marcus Maddison will be on the list. He played a game of professional football for Hull City.
He scored a goal. Yeah. Wow.
Somehow.
I think you guys wanted to discuss maybe some of our favourite moments or favourite.
Well, I can't believe you are skipping over the kit.
Oh yes, well, it's going to be kind of difficult to not somewhat be negative about the kit. I mean, I love the kit.
Sorry. What do you mean be negative about the kit?
About the the controversy over how many they provided.
That's
initially.
not the kit's fault. I'm on about the kit.
No, the kit's lovely, isn't it?
And how beautiful it is.
It is. I do very much like it.
For me,
the goals are nice touch.
For me personally, maybe it might be the greatest Hull City shirt ever, but that's obviously a recency bias in that as well. I'm a bit annoyed and disappointed in a way that it isn't our home kit all season. I know why.
That's their kit.
Yeah, but our third kit's the Orlando one.
We're never going to wear that, really, are we?
I think we'll wear it at Derby, maybe, and that's it.
Yeah,
it should have been. For me, it should have been our home shirt, which I know people might be, it's another shirt that's more black than amber. Well, there's no amber on it in the first place. So.
Do you reckon they'd do a whole year of a special kit for the 125 years?
Perhaps.
I think we'll see. I would be surprised if they don't do something again for 125 years. But that's 5 years away, so...
Then we won't see anything again until 150, will we, really? We shouldn't do, because 130, 135, 140, they're not big enough.
I would argue 120 is not really
It's not.
A big number. It's just a nice round one, though, isn't it? It's just a nice sort of...
120 is the last anniversary we celebrated properly was the 100th anniversary back in 2004. And when we celebrated that, it was before the rise we had from League Two to the Premier. It was a promotion season, that 100th anniversary season. But what's happened in those 20 years since is ridiculous.
Well, it's the best 20 years the club has had, hasn't it? So that's worth celebrating.
Well, I don't know, some of it was pretty naff.
Well, yeah, but it is the best 20 years the club has had.
Actually, it's the highest we've finished in these last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying all of it was the best, but...
I'm not... Well, yeah, exactly. Not all of it's great, though.
But if you would take any 20-year period, you'd probably take this maybe a few years earlier, possibly.
I would cut off the past 10 years and just make it the best 10-year period from 2004 to 2014.
It's not the 110 years, so it's 120. So
could have done that.
Could have done, but we didn't.
Well, yeah, well, the 110th was the year that coincided with Europa League, but also FA Cup final the season before if we count back, would have been 03-04, and then. But it coincided with the Alams changing the badge, so the Hull City name wasn't on it. So that wasn't much of a celebration, was it?
No, it certainly wasn't. Let's move on from mentioning
the kit's sexy. The club have admitted they made.
Stop trying to move on from the kit. The kit's ace. What's wrong with you, Nathaniel?
I didn't say the kit wasn't.
We haven't even mentioned the jacket yet, which might be the greatest piece of clothing ever invented.
Oh, Ken Wagstaff modelling that. Wow. The announcement video. Lewie Coyle narrating that little poem.
To quote Les, he did look like Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos, and that is one of the highest compliments you can possibly give to that man.
Ken Wagstaff. Wow. Yeah, nice to see some of the legends back. Brian Horton. Peter Taylor was loving it. Justin Whittle got the first little cheer of the lot as
Justin Whittle got the biggest cheer from me personally, but that's because he's probably my favourite. But we'll get on to talking about old players.
Justin Whittle got a murmuring. Dean Windass, Brackets, and David Myler, and we'll talk about my love for David Myler.
I was cheering for Myler.
Yeah, I was filming it, so I didn't cheer. But no, Dino definitely got the biggest cheer. But then Peter Taylor came out and he did the most clapping, turned round to all the stands. Yeah, he was loving it. And someone mentioned to me that I'm not sure how true it is, but apparently whispers that they want to name the West Stand after Ken Wagstaff, so Chilton and Waggy. And I'm not sure how true it is, but if that were to happen, in Ken's lifetime as well,
it makes sense.
I know Chris wasn't here to see it. Then if Ken Wagstaff can see a stand named after him in his lifetime, yeah, good move. But then I think at that point, as unfortunate as it is, I think we would have to kind of leave the North and the South to the rugby club to take if they really wanted.
I disagree.
I fundamentally disagree with it, but I think it's only fair.
No, it isn't. They don't own the place. We don't own the place. We still have players named after
it. Yeah, Myler Stand.
Love it. David Myler North Stand. Unbelievable.
Amazing. Yeah. Are any of the players that were at the match before the game your two favourites?
Yes, David Myler. Always and forever.
Justin Whittle.
Yeah. You know mine wasn't there.
He was in the stands.
I assume Ryan was somewhere about.
Yeah. But yeah, he's probably at the match somehow. But yeah, Joe, you seem to want to talk about David Myler.
Yeah. What a guy. That's all I've got to say.
Right, okay then. That was our segment on David Myler.
He is. I mean, I had a great personal relationship with Jacob Greaves when he was here, just from over the years. I'd known him for quite a long time, but he's still second in my all-time favourite players to David Myler. Just because I think a lot of it is rooted in, because I used to like him, my granddad used to slag him off quite a bit, so that just made me like him more. And yeah, he at under-18s games, which during the international break on the 12th of October, the under-18s play at Bishop Burton College against Crewe Alexandra, kick off at 11 a.m. for anyone wondering. Listening to David Myler during those games at the dugout, the way he sort of speaks to the lads, I couldn't think of anyone better to do that role, really, and I hope he gets the job full-time, because he was assistant and then the under-18s manager left to be assistant manager at Manchester City Women. But yeah, absolutely love him to bits. My favourite Hull City player ever. Hard worker, played for the badge. And yeah, modern
another
day.
man who got loads of criticism for some reason, but
yes,
he's now loved. Yeah. I always loved Myler as well.
What a player! We'll talk about Justin Whittle. He's definitely yours, isn't he?
He's just the greatest. I don't know what I can say. He scored the first goal I saw Hull City score as well, which just helps a little bit. He's probably the reason I support Hull City. Maybe is that a blessing or a curse? I'm not sure.
It's both.
Yeah, he was so vital. It wasn't just him, but he was so vital to the club at a time when we was at our lowest ebb. And without him, it's very likely that the club might not exist. It isn't just him, of course. There was many other players in that Great Escape team who are just as important. But he, in particular, he was, I think, the closest comparison I can think of is someone else who was involved in the whole 120th, but he wasn't there on the day. He was essentially what I think Curtis Davies was to the side that got into the Premier League and got to the FA Cup final. He was very similar sort of character to have around the team. I don't know what to say about Sarge because a lot of my memories of him, obviously, I'm a lot younger when I saw him, but he's always stuck in my head as just the absolute greatest. But there's loads of other players who I've enjoyed over the years, but there's something about Sarge that's just, I don't know how to describe it, to be honest.
Oh, very nice.
You go, Nathaniel.
He's not the greatest player in our entire. I will say this though, I'm distincting between greatest and favourite here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. In terms of greatest, you're looking at someone like, if you're looking at overall career, it's JJ Okocha, and there's no close second.
No.
Do you not think?
Rach Carter is the greatest player to ever wear a Hull City shirt.
Rach Carter, true, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good players, but yeah, it's going to be someone.
Carter, in terms of like,
should be in the Hall of Fame. Carter should be in the Hall of Fame, and it's a disgrace he already isn't. He should have been one of the inaugural members of it.
He should have been, definitely. In terms of like technical players, Nick Barmby's definitely up there in terms of what he achieved.
Barmby's always been a favourite, obviously.
Windass is going to be up there, of course. Ashby, in terms of.
Funnily enough, Dino isn't one of my favourites.
Yeah, but then difference between favourites and greatest, but then there's greatest players like JJ Okocha, not greatest whilst he was with us. Whereas there are some players.
Well, in terms of pure ability, he might be the greatest that's ever played for us, but
yeah,
none of us ever watched like Rach Carter, like you say. Well, we're just like the three of us just aren't.
I think this is another episode, but we should do a sort of Hull City lineup, greatest lineup or legendary lineup at some point.
So but what that's going to be? Tonight. Yeah, not. But in terms of other good technical players, like the best I've watched are Tom Huddleston and Jean-Michel Seri. They're the best two technical players I've ever seen play for Hull City in just terms of how relaxed they are on the ball, how calm they are on the ball. And even when... Shut up, Nathaniel. And even when... Ben Arthur, unbelievable. And then, like, even when Huddleston came back for a second stint just for that season, he'd lost a lot of pace and what have you with age, but that passing ability...
Could ping a ball.
That passing ability was so obviously still there. Like, against Peterborough at home, that's famous for the Josh McGuinness penalty, I think. I think that was that game.
Yeah.
But Tom Huddleston in the midfield, he was a general that day alongside Richie Smallwood. He just, like, his passing, he hit a shot from 35 yards that cannoned off the post. And, like, even Peterborough away, Shota Avaladze subbed him on. He saw a game out, and you thought, it's nice that Tom Huddleston's on the pitch in a Hull City kit again.
I do forget that happened, that we signed Huddleston again. I do forget that. But, yeah.
There's loads of players from in the past, like Billy Whitehurst, Richard Jobson, Tony Norman, Billy Bly, Gareth Roberts, Brian Marwood. There's so many, even like older players who obviously a lot of people who go to City now never saw, but who deserve remembering. Like I mentioned, Justin Whittle, his partner in defence, Gary Brabham, was just as important to that side. He's another. And there's people who obviously no one around has barely ever seen, like Viggo Jensen, who was so good for City. And it's nice that we have these opportunities to remember players, but I suppose it's a shame that so many players get forgotten as well because it's been so long since a lot of them were seen.
I'd love to just do an entire episode where we list.
Skipper. Can't even realise that from Pete Skipper, one of the greatest captains this club has ever had.
Yeah. Now, you don't want me to talk about Ryan Longman, so you've heard enough about him.
No, we don't.
The only thing.
After I've just talked about all those names, as much as I love Longman, no.
Precisely. The only horrible thing I'm going to say is, wouldn't it have been nice if Liam Messina was there and he was still the manager? But, you know, someone's got to say it.
While that was so nice, let it go.
Let it go, precisely.
To be fair, it would have been nice if he wasn't in a job. It would have been nice to see Brucey there, but he's getting Blackpool wins. So
he's the first manager in Blackpool history to win all of his first 4 games, isn't he?
Wow.
I have no idea.
How bad Blackpool are. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Shall we do just a little bit of preview for the 2 games we've got?
No, we've not finished yet. We wanted to do a little memory as well, didn't we?
Oh, okay. Sure.
It doesn't have to be. I just want to say on this as well, because mine isn't any of these. It can be FA Cup final, playoff, or whatever, or it can be something a bit more personal, let's say.
Longman signing on a permanent. No, I'm joking. No, it has to be the FA Cup final. Or all those crazy 18 minutes where we were just waiting for a result from Watford. That was
I was going to say the best game I've seen. Well, the best MKM Stadium one is that game against Cardiff. But I think when I think back, because we've obviously this anniversary has brought up a lot of stuff. I think the one for me is that final game at Boothry Park, which you two won't remember because I think either you were even a thought.
I wasn't 5 years ago.
It was the last game at Boothry. It had a somewhat not exactly the same, a similar vibe because obviously there was a lot of history behind the whole thing. Difference being that it was a stadium that was on the verge of collapse. Let's be honest at this point, which is a shame. But I think it also was the most perfect way that it could have gone. City, who had spent decades and decades in mediocrity and relative mediocrity, lost 1-0 to Darlington in their final game at home in the stadium, and it almost felt right that we lost. It was a rubbish, boring game, and not much happened. Let's say it was 1-0. The weather was a bit crap. It was the perfect Hull City game for that scenario, and you could argue it is the turning point for Hull City, moving out to Boothry Park and into the then KC Stadium, because look at what's happened since then.
Yeah. No. Mine's a little bit of it's a very, very personal one. I've never said this publicly before.
Volume up, record on.
Do it. I'm gonna go to December 2013. I was I'd have been 7 years old at this point, and this was mine and my dad's first season as season pass holders. We started going at the end of the 2012-13 promotion winning season. We both loved it together, so we went, and it was the December game against Liverpool. I think it was on the 7th of December, and all my dad's mates had decided to get a box just for the game. So I said to my dad, do you want to come with us? And my dad straight away says, what, an afternoon getting pissed watching the football? Go on then. And sort of said to his dad, my granddad, oh, you can go. And this is the fondest memory I've got with my granddad. We lost him in December 2020. And the day of his funeral was the day we beat Fleetwood in the Papa John's Trophy, and the first goal was scored on, I think, if I remember this right, it was scored on the minute of how old he was when he passed. But that Liverpool game was, so that's the fondest memory I've got with my granddad, because he's sort of had a bit of a soft spot for Man United. So seeing Liverpool get torn apart made him very happy. But it's sort of the time we sort of spent at that game and what have you. It's the fondest memory I've got with my granddad, that one. And my dad sort of read it out when he was doing the eulogy at my granddad's funeral. And that, if the event didn't already, it definitely made sure that my COVID face mask was sodden with tears. So yeah, that's the memory I want to mention on here.
Come on, Nathaniel. After that lovely, go and follow up that delightful.
Follow it up with Ryan Longman scoring against Birmingham. Go on.
Ryan Longman's never scored against Birmingham.
He got the assist for that one, didn't he? That was 3 miles over the line.
One of my least favourite moments was Longman scoring a bullet header away at Birmingham and getting ruled out for offside. So does that count? I can't live up to that. I can't live up to that. I've said about the Watford match, so no, let's just go for that. I want to wrap this up.
I've got enough one that really doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, but
yeah,
it was a nice moment for me personally, and it was January 2014, so it was slightly after one of the ones that Joe mentioned. We were playing Southampton. It was just at the start of that cup run. I think we just played the third round tie. I can't remember exactly when in January it was. No, it can't have been. It'll have been later on. And I had been chosen to present Player of the Month. It was at the time Curtis Davis. And the game itself was rubbish. I think we lost 1-0. I can't actually remember, to be quite honest. I think we lost 1-0. But the post-match, being able to give Curtis Davis his Man of the Match award, look at Baby Will there. And then I got this pennant as a prize, which he signed. And it was just a really nice feeling. It was a real nice moment through who was at the time my favourite player in the team. And being able to talk, meet him, chat with him a little bit about football, and present him with an award. It just felt real nice, especially with the way that season went as well, in hindsight. Because then, like a few months later, he's scoring at Wembley. Unfortunately, not a winner, but it was just it's not one of those moments where you really appreciate the club.
I've just thought of my favourite Hull City moment. It's every second I've spent on the podcast with you guys.
You kiss ass.
That was genuine. That wasn't being sarcastic.
That is a player that JR has just brought up, that Retired just brought up. Rocky Rocastle, another great name. Somewhat unfortunately forgotten in the annals, but people who saw him, I didn't personally, I can't remember seeing him, but when you've seen footage of him, he was such a talented footballer, gone way too soon.
Yeah. So that was a look into the past. We've got a few more minutes, so we'll look ahead to 2 difficult away games we've got coming up. QPR away and then Norwich before the international break. Would we make any changes? Obviously, Bellumi could well be out of the match, so Miller in, presumably?
I'm not actually sure.
Either Miller in left and Abdush drop.
Yeah, the one change I would probably make is Abdush coming out, but I don't know who I'd maybe bring in. I don't know if I'd change it about, bring in Palmer, or if I'd go like for like out wide and bring in Miller. Either way, I'd probably... Amir, when he was in the middle, like we said before, when Amir was in the middle, he looks all right, but when he's out wide, he's too isolated. You need someone who's more out wide, so it's probably... it probably would have to be Miller.
Yeah. Alex's comment about favourite Hull City moments, my rant after Wigan.
It was pretty good.
When
it was the only good thing about that game.
When Will suggested that idea, I was talking to my mum about the idea. This is what we're going to do, and she goes, "What? Wigan 8-0?" Says, "Yeah, kind of, in a weird roundabout way."
I would disagree there. But
yeah,
your rant is the best thing about it.
It's the most embarrassing, disastrous day I've ever known as a Hull City fan. And I went in, my mindset going into that video was try and keep my cool. And then I just lost it. And I've watched that video back in its entirety once. I will never do so again. I can't watch it.
I can't even sit through it.
In terms of on the pitch, you might be right of it being our worst moment. I would disagree with it off the pitch. There was a couple of moments like being locked out of the ground, just the whole, most of the 90s off the pitch. But a real disappointing one in recent times, obviously, that everyone, it's the day that the Allams announced the name change. I've never been I've probably been more upset, but in my head, I can't remember a time where I've been more upset at the club for doing something so
stupid.
Well, what the club doing it, really. It was two people who admittedly didn't know what football was, themselves admitted it, trying to do it, and badly. And thank God it failed.
Yeah.
I was explaining to someone who I've met at university about the whole name change, and he was like, "Oh, what? The FA blocked it? I just thought it was fan pressure." I said, "No.
It was a combination. I think if the fans had said yes, they might have done it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the FA that blocked it. Yeah. From memory, it was around the FA Cup semi-final weekend as well when it happened, the blocking of it. I can't say for certain.
It was a
relatively good weekend overall that week.
Yeah. QPR then.
Yeah.
I hope we win.
To get back on topic, just quickly, Nathaniel, I'll say if Baloumi's dropped and Abdush gets dropped as well or moved centrally and someone else comes out so Miller can be left, Kamara will come in on the right. And I want to see a little bit more of what Abu Kamara can do, especially on his favourite right side, if Baloumi has to come out.
Yeah, I'd be happy enough with that. I reckon Palmer could even do a job in the wing, but you'd rather have a winger there.
I'd rather have Palmer in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think Amer was so bad in the first half against Stoke. Left wing. I think maybe right wing. He wants to come inside too much, but if he's left wing, he has to be a winger. And maybe that would work a little better, possibly. But then Miller would want to be left wing, so I'd probably just be the one change Miller in for Baloumi and put Amer on the other side, which I think works. Yeah, that's enough players. I've got a combined lineup, but it's mostly just old players. So I can't really be bothered, to be honest. After talking about so poetically the last 120 years, I don't really want to besmirch it with a... Oh, here we go.
Flash up, that's all it gets.
Yeah, that's what you get. And then Norwich away. Of course, we've had a few controversial run-ins with Norwich there. Shall I read it out? I've got to.
I wanted to see it.
Oh, you just wanted to read what it said, yeah.
For audio listeners, we'll put that up on the screen.
It was mostly Hull City, to be fair. That's all you need to know.
It was. I think I'd take one win out of the next two games. I think maybe we could beat QPR and we might lose at Norwich, but that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, Norwich are in a relatively decent form, I suppose. I mean, they do need the linesman being useless to help them win some games.
That's true.
QPR, they've lost. I know they used their most recent result, and you can only really base a team on their most recent game. It's their first loss in 6. They're doing relatively okay. They're probably going to be a mid-table championship side when it comes to it.
We could outscore them.
It's too early in the season to properly judge teams for me, and to try and work out what teams like.
We've got the momentum.
I'd probably be targeting the win against them over. I'd be targeting a win more against them than Norwich if it came down to it. I'd obviously want us to win both, but if I'm looking at it on paper, not QPR seems the more likely of the two. But who knows now?
We'll still win both games 3-0 anyway. So
of course, I will predict that. I will happily predict that on the record right now.
Fair point. We
might not have won 3-0. We won by 3 goals.
What do we want to predict for QPR, and then we can do a Norwich prediction?
2-0.
2-0. Baloumi's going to actually finish his hat-trick this time.
Nice. Nice.
2-0 for Big Chris. And you know what? Let's chuck a wild card in there. Cody Drama.
Yeah, that's nice. From edge of the box, from a short corner, maybe. That could work.
No, because he was the one always sat back.
Oh.
Someone did mention it in the comments earlier.
Just whizzes one.
Someone did mention in the comments earlier, and they are right. I think Drama has been very much gone under the radar so far this season. But I think in a good way. He's not really done much wrong. He's sort of just... Go on.
We were talking about Giles so much, weren't we? Because his performance...
In comparison to Giles, he sort of steadied it all up. on the left side, which is his weak. Obviously, he's out of position playing there, and he still looks all right. I mean, at the moment, you can't drop Coyle to play him in his correct position. So,
no.
But yeah,
it's an injury for Lewie Coyle, isn't it, to drop him?
Mm-hmm. I think I'd go 2-2 against QPR. I reckon there could be a lot of goals in that. That's just the way Volta likes to play, and I reckon maybe we'll lose 2-1 to Norwich. But I just see us getting a few goals this week, and it could be anything. Those results could be anything. I think that's the way Volta plays, where it's a risk and reward, and every match could be 4-3. We're just trying to hope to get those fine margins, and hopefully the momentum. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we beat QPR. Joe, did you want to predict the Norwich game as well? I know, Will, you're going to go 3-0.
Yeah, go on, now. Go on, Joe. I'll think about my score.
Okay. Norwich. I'd take a point, but I'm going to say 2-1 win. I'm in a good mood at the minute. Nice. Goals, Liam Miller and Ivor Pan. No, I'm kidding. Big Chris.
Hey, you never know. Last minute winner.
Yeah. Allison at the Hawthorns.
Yeah.
Walter does seem like the sort of manager to send his goalkeeper up.
Send his keeper up at the death. Absolutely, he seems like the sort of person who'd do that.
100%. He'd do it when they're 3-0 up.
What, just to prove a point? So you out goalkeeper.
Just to prove a point, yeah. Give Choppy a chance to score in the FA Cup.
I'd love that. I would absolutely love that.
My prediction, it's a tough one. I think we'll win 3-0.
Cool.
I think the big boy Bedia with a brace, and then Captain Marvel, Louis.
Yeah.
Absolutely hammering it in from long range.
I'll accept that. I'd be very happy with that, certainly. Well, happy 120 years to Hull City. Joe, Will, you've both been lovely, as always. I meant what I said about, every moment with you is lovely. So thanks
it's ours.
And everyone who's commented it and liked, we really appreciate it. And the next 120 years, not only of Hull City, but of this podcast, because we'll be still here.
How long do you plan on sticking?
I'm going to be honest, I don't plan to be here in 120 years.
Me neither, really.
So, thanks again. Yeah, you probably lost me for a second there. So
yeah, Nathaniel,
I'll just play the outro, shall I?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Am I still frozen?
Auf Wiedersehen.
No, you're back.
For God's sake, Nathaniel.